Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have amongst us Comrade Subhashini Ali. She is the Politburo member of CPIM, the
Yeah.
Vice President of the All India Democratic Women's Association. She was the member of the Lok Sabha and she represented Kanpur. As we all are aware of what is happening with the Bilkis Bano case, yesterday, Comrade Subhashini, she filed a petition in the Supreme Court challenging the Gujarat government's decision to release 11 rapists and murderers in the Bilkis Bano case. Now, my first question to Comrade. The Bilkis Bano episode had made the headlines in 2002 during the Gujarat pogrom. After the long legal battle, the rapists and murderers were convicted and put behind bars. On the day the entire country was celebrating its 75 years of independence, the 11 convicts who were serving life sentence were freed after the Gujarat government allowed their release under its remission policy amid a massive outcry from the common citizens of the country. What led you to file this PIL?
Well, I think that everybody and people in the women's movement, people in the democratic movement, secular people all over our country were completely appalled by this release. And perhaps even more than the release, or at least equal to the release, was people's shock at seeing these rapists and murderers being welcomed and greeted and hailed as heroes by people belonging to the Hindutva organizations who greeted them with garlands and sweets and all the rest of it. And I believe that they were fated on the way to their village also. And this really disgusted people and made us all feel very ashamed of ourselves on that day. So this was just such a brazen attack on all that our constitution stands for, on women's rights, on the question of security of women. This was such a terrible thing that occurred on the day that we were celebrating the 75 years of our independence, 15th of August itself. It occurred just at the time that the Prime Minister was exhorting his fellow Indians, मतलब लाल किले से प्रधानमंत्री कह रहे थे कि महिलाओं की इज्जत तो करनी ही पड़ेगी, और उसी वक्त इन बलात्कारी हत्यारों को गुजरात की सरकार ने रिहा कर दिया। तो उससे जो एक तरह की जनता में घृणा पैदा हुई, और तमाम खास तौर से जो महिला कार्यकर्ता हैं उन्होंने जो भी उनसे करते बना, मतलब सिग्नेचर कैंपेन, पर्चा बांटना, कमिंग आउट ऑन द स्ट्रीट्स एंड प्रोटेस्ट, वो सब कुछ किया. So when there was this decision to challenge the Gujarat High Court decision in the Supreme Court of India, and I immediately was only, I could say, proud to be associated with that. And so I became the main petitioner with two other women activists, Revati Lal and Srimati Rupreka Verma, who both are living in Uttar Pradesh. So that's actually how it happened. And now the final writ petition has been, finalized, and we are hoping very much that there will be a hearing fixed for tomorrow, hopefully, and then we'll see what the Supreme Court has to say. लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि पूरा देश और शायद बिल्किस जी भी अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ ही देख रहे हैं, टकटकी लगा के देख रहे हैं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट उनकी सुरक्षा, उनके सम्मान, उनके अधिकारों के लिए क्या करेगा. और ये जो न्याय के साथ एक बहुत जबरदस्त खिलवाड़ हुआ है गुजरात में, उसको रोक करके उन लोगों को वापस जेल भेजेगा कि नहीं.
The 11 convicts They walked out of prison to a hero's welcome. A video that has gone viral showed the men standing outside the Godhra jail while people gave them sweets and touched their feet to show respect. How would you describe this brazenness?
You see, I don't think that we can only call it brazenness. There is an ideology at work over here. And that ideology is definitely what I would call Manuvadi Hindutva. That is definitely what we are seeing play out. क्योंकि जब ये लोग जेल से छूटे तो उनको या उनका स्वागत करने वाले कौन लोग थे? वो वही लोग थे जो हिंदुत्व की विचारधारा से अपने आप को जोड़ते हैं. The people who welcomed them were all adherents of the Hindutva ideology. And if you remember, the Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort, he spoke of Savarkar in the same breath as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and other freedom fighters. This was quite shocking, actually. But we have to put all these things together. We have to join the dots. Now, it was Savarkar who actually used the word Hindutva and defined what Hindutva was. And he wrote several books about it. And one of the books he wrote was about important historical events or historical times in Indian history. And in that, he talks about Shivaji and he criticizes Shivaji. He says Shivaji and his general Chimappa, after they defeated Afzal Khan, they treated Afzal Khan's wife and other women of his harem with great respect and dignity and sent them back home to their families uh, safely. And he says, why did they do this? They should have thought about all the Hindu women who had been raped, etc. And they should have not had these sort of finer feelings. And what he's saying is that they should have actually raped these Muslim women as their duty as warriors for Hindu Raj at that time or Hindu Rashtra. And this is something that is so appalling, but it is certainly something that is finding traction with a large number of people. And when you glorify Savarkar and try to equate him with Subhash Chandra Bose, then you are also glorifying his ideas. You are also saying that what he said should be followed. And that is exactly what is being done. And apart from that, I'd like to say something else, that when we saw some members who were on the committee set up by the Gujarat government to go into this issue of remission, at least 2 or 3 of them are BJP members, BJP uh, members of the Legislative Assembly. And one of them has spoken very openly and clearly on television saying that these are Brahmins and they are Sanskari Brahmins. And as if that is enough reason to let them off. So I think that later on we should talk about the implications this kind of thinking has for the safety of women and for our society as a whole. So it is extremely, it's not just the act of greeting them that was shocking, but what should shock us and make us more afraid of things to come is the fact that there is an ideology at work here. I call it Manuvadi Hindutva because it has both elements of Hindutva and also of Manuvad, that is the arrogance and superior feelings of the upper castes, especially Brahmins. So this is what we saw at work in that horrible incident that took place when these people were released.
India's post-independence history, if we see, it is littered with incidences of communal violence. But in the past, we have seen at least an attempt by the state governments concerned to secure justice for the victims. That does not seem to be the case with the Gujarat riots of 2002 and other communal aggressions that have taken place in BJP ruled states since 2014. How would you describe this change?
Well, I would like to disagree with you. I don't find many state governments actually fighting for justice for riot victims. I don't see that. I belong to Uttar Pradesh. I have seen Congress governments, BJP governments, Samajwadi Party governments, and BSP governments. And I have not seen any of them actually fighting for the relief or compensation or justice for riot victims. Yes, some governments have been giving compensation when deaths occur, but when you talk about justice, that's much bigger than compensation. If you take just the case of Meerut, where police personnel killed young Muslim men in cold blood, and their bodies were thrown into the Hindon Canal. That is the Hashimpura case. Now that case has lingered on from a Congress government to at present the BJP government, and there has been absolutely no closure for the victims. There's been no justice. So I think that many state governments have actually been extremely remiss as far as justice to riot victims is concerned. And in this context, certainly left led governments have a very shining record, whether it was the Left Front government of West Bengal or the Left Hand Democratic Front government of Kerala and the Left Front government of Tripura, that as long as they were controlling the state and the administration, in the first place, they did not allow riots to occur. And supposing some communal conflict did erupt, they were very prompt in putting an end to it and in seeing that those who were responsible, those who were guilty, were immediately punished. So I think that this is something that we have to understand, that non-left governments have actually not bothered much about giving justice to victims of communal rioting. तो ये बात बिल्कुल सही है कि लेफ्ट जो गवर्नमेंट्स थे, वामपंथी सरकारें, उनके रहते तो सांप्रदायिक हिंसा हुई ही नहीं, या अगर कहीं पर वो हो गई या शुरू हो गई तो सरकार ने तुरंत हस्तक्षेप किया और उसको रोका, और जो लोग जिम्मेदार थे उनको दंडित किया. लेकिन अगर बाकी सरकारों को हम देखें तो चाहे वो कांग्रेस की हो, समाजवादी पार्टी की हो, बहुजन समाज पार्टी की हो, या ऑब्वियसली भाजपा की हो, तो जो न्याय मिलना चाहिए हिंसा के शिकार जो लोग हैं, जो सांप्रदायिक दंगों के पीड़ित हैं, उनको न्याय तो नहीं मिला है. इवन मैं देखती हूँ कि बिहार में आज जब तक लालू जी की सरकार थी तो मतलब दंगा उन्होंने नहीं होने दिया, ये उनके पक्ष में कहा जाना चाहिए. लेकिन बाकी सरकारों ने वो ना तो दंगा रोक पाए और ना ही उन्होंने दंगा पीड़ितों के साथ न्याय किया.
What message is the BJP trying to give to the people in general and the women in particular of this country through this release of the convicted rapists and murderers?
It's a very terrifying message. ये जो घटना घटी है, इन 11 हत्यारे जो बलात्कारी भी हैं, उनके छूटने से जो संदेश आम जनता को गया है वो ये है, और ख़ास तौर से आम महिलाओं को जो संदेश गया वो ये है कि उनकी ज़िंदगी और भी ज़्यादा असुरक्षित हो गई है. वैसे भी हम देखते हैं, we are seeing a huge spike in atrocities and violence against women and even infants and young girls, even old women. So life is extremely insecure for women. If now the message that the government is giving is that if you murder and if you gang rape women belonging to a minority community, and also I must add, if you belong to the upper caste and you indulge in gang rape and murder, if you're guilty of these crimes, then you will be treated with uh, you'll be treated very kindly and you will probably be let off. तो ये जो संदेश जा रहा है वो ये है, खास तौर से औरतों को, महिलाओं को इससे बहुत ही घबराना चाहिए, विरोध भी इसका करना चाहिए कि अगर आप अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय की महिलाओं, बच्चियों के साथ हत्या करते हैं, उनके साथ सामूहिक बलात्कार करते हैं, और या अगर आप उच्च जाति के हैं और आप दलित जाति या आदिवासी महिलाओं के साथ बलात्कार और हत्या करते हैं, तो आपके साथ बहुत नरमी से सरकार और प्रशासन पेश आएगा और हो सकता है कि आपको जल्दी छोड़ भी दिया जाएगा. So this kind of message that you can rape and murder with impunity is a very dangerous one for the people of India and also for the women of India. I'd also like to add that some women were also giving sweets to those rapist murderers when they were being released. And they probably feel that they are safe. They probably feel that because of their religious affiliation to the majority community, they are safe. तो जो औरतें मिठाई खिला रही थीं उन अपराधियों को, शायद उनको लगता है कि वो सुरक्षित हैं, उनके साथ कुछ होने वाला नहीं है क्योंकि वो बहुसंख्यक समुदाय के सदस्य हैं. बट they should understand that once you are creating an atmosphere in which people can rape and murder with impunity, then nobody is safe. No one is safe. And therefore, this is a very big battle for our basic rights, for our constitutional rights, for our safety, and for our quest for justice. It's not Bilkis Bano's fight. She has fought very bravely. बिल्किस बहुत बहादुरी के साथ लड़ी. 2002 से वो औरत 2008 तक लड़ी और उसके बाद भी लड़ती रही. आप सोचिए, एक औरत जिसका 3 साल की बच्ची उसकी आंखों के सामने मार डाली गई, जो 5 महीने की गर्भवती थी और जिसके साथ सामूहिक बलात्कार हुआ, जिसके परिवार के तमाम लोग उसकी आंखों के सामने काट दिए गए, मार डाले गए, उनके साथ बलात्कार भी हुआ. वो वहां से जब बच के निकली तो उसने अपना बयान दिया और वो लड़ी और 2008 तक लड़ती रही जब तक कि अपराधी जेल में चले नहीं गए. सो आज वो भी देख रही होगी कि आखिर न्याय का मतलब क्या है, आखिर देश में न्याय की उम्मीद लोगों को रखनी चाहिए या नहीं रखनी चाहिए. और मैं तो यही कहना चाहती हूँ कि हम लोग को ये नहीं समझना चाहिए कि बिल्किस के दिमाग में जो सवाल है वो हमारे दिमाग में नहीं उठना चाहिए. हम सबको आज इस सवाल के जवाब ढूंढने हैं कि क्या इस देश में न्याय की उम्मीद हो सकती है कि नहीं. सो आई फील वेरी स्ट्रांगली दैट दिस action of the Gujarat government must be understood by the Indian people as a whole, men and women, children, everybody, transgenders, everybody. They must see it as an attack on them, an attack on their rights, an attack on their constitution, an attack on secularism, an attack on humanity and what humanity stands for. If today Bilkis is wondering, is there any hope of justice in our country, then it should not be Bilkis alone who is thinking like this. All of us should be addressing this question. Okay, is it any more possible to dream of justice in our country? And if we want to retain that possibility, then we have to fight. We have to fight against this action of the Gujarat government. We have to fight the people who are behind this action. And we have to fight the ideology that it is inspired by. That is what I would like to appeal to everyone.
Comrade, do you think these 11 convicts who were released, were they released because Bilkis Bano belongs to the minority section of the society?
There's no question. Of course, that's what I've been saying from the very beginning, that it was Hindutvawadi people who went to greet them. Why are they being greeted? Because they feel that they have performed what a Hindutvawadi warrior should do, What is his duty? I've been saying this is what Savarkar said they should do. So this is part of their ideology. And at the same time, it is not only minorities who should be attacked, but one of the MLAs who was in the committee said that these are Brahmins, they are Sanskari Brahmins. So what does that mean? That a Brahmin also can get away with rape and murder. So that in that case, who is safe? People who belong to the Dalit community, the Adivasi community, to the backward castes, and also people who belong to the minority communities, they are all threatened. And I would say that leniency towards rapists and murderers means that nobody is going to be safe in our country.
Comrade, what kind of impact do you think this incident is going to have on India's image globally? How is the rest of the world going to look at India? What will be the extent of the damage that this incident is going to cause?
Well, I really can't say much about that because I don't see that many countries in the world have very excellent records of human rights and delivery of justice. I mean, we are seeing in the United States of America the kind of injustice that poor people and blacks are being regularly subjected to. We are seeing that when they go to war with different countries in the Middle East and elsewhere, how what torture they subject the people of those countries. We are seeing their record in Latin America where they have been supporting the most brutal regimes which have, just practiced rape and murder on a large scale against their citizens. So there will be many voices raised. Many people will criticize and condemn the Indian government. And lots of people will say that these people must go back to jail. I'm sure of that. But I think that it is most important for the Indian people themselves to understand the nature of the government that they have elected. They must realize the real face of this government. That this is the government, the face of the government is of those who are letting loose rapists and murderers to uh, to do as they please, not to undergo punishment. That is the real face of this government, and that is what people in our country must recognize. Of course, there will be a lot of condemnation from other countries, I'm sure of it. But I think what is most important is the reaction of our own people.
Does this action of the BJP government of Gujarat reiterate the fact that Muslims in this country are already being treated as second class citizens?
Well, obviously, I mean, that doesn't need any long reply. I mean, if people who have raped and murdered Muslims are being let off, then that's a signal. It was there in the Katwa case also, it's there in all the lynching cases also, it's being repeated all the time. But I want to go on saying and reiterating this is not to be seen only as an attack on Muslims. Yes, it is an attack on Muslims, but it is an attack on human rights. It is an attack on our constitution. It is also a casteist attack. So all Indian citizens are under threat after this action of the Gujarat government.
My last question to you. We have
Yeah.
seen that the person who is at the helm of the administration in the country, on multiple occasions, he has made extremely derogatory and misogynistic comments about women, even those who are in powerful positions or belong to privileged section of the society. How would you interpret this kind of behavior?
No, what is most objectionable is that I believe you're referring to the Prime Minister.
Yes.
So, what is most objectionable is, of course, the language he has used on various occasions, whether against the leader of the Congress party or the Chief Minister of West Bengal, that shows generally his very dismissive and very, what should I say, very anti women sentiments. But much more than that, he's the Prime Minister of the country. He is appealing from the Red Fort on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of our independence that people must treat women with respect. And at the very same time, his government in Gujarat is setting free men who are responsible for gang rape and murder of women baby and 3-year-old girl child, and he has nothing to say about it. So, what is this telling the people of India about what he really feels about gender rights, about justice, about equality, and about human rights and the constitution and constitutional rights of our people? That is what people have to question now.
Thank you so much, comrade, for being with us and for answering my questions. I don't know how intelligent or how,
No,
you
that's
know,
all right. Thank you.
the right the
No,
questions were. But anyway, thank you so
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.